Beetlejuice. I'm sorry. Lori Beetlejuice. I'm sorry. I know I can't say his name 3 times or he gonna come and he gonna ruin my life. So if y'all ever seen that movie with the beetle in it, when I think of Lori Lightfoot, the first thing that I think of is Beetle. I can't say the word 3 times because then he's gonna come. Have y'all ever seen that movie Beetlejuice? Y'all, God, I said it. And I genuinely didn't mean to say it 3 times. Y'all should go and watch that movie. The first thing that I think of when I look at Lori Lightfoot is Beetlejuice. It's Beetlejuice. I've seen some pretty bad political leaders in my lifetime. Lori Lightfoot has to be up there at the top of the heap for worst political leaders that I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, so much so that people don't even look at Chicago as a major American city that they have to visit anymore. Who cares about the Bean when you got the south side of Chicago in turmoil? Downtown Chicago at some points is taken over by thugs. And now we're in a space to where the New York Times has literally released an article that talks about $500 a month, no strings, Chicago experiments with a guaranteed income. When are y'all going to stop doing this to yourself? When are y'all going to stop doing this to yourself? Let me ask y'all a question. Did y'all vote in Lori Lightfoot because she identified as gay? Did y'all elect Lori Lightfoot because she was a woman? Did y'all elect Lori Lightfoot because she was black? Those are what we call the trifectas of the Victim Olympics. That's when women a lot of times say things like, I'm a triple minority. At some point, they're going to say they're a quadruple minority. They say, I'm a triple minority. I'm black, I'm a woman, and I'm gay. Right? Now, I don't really care what you do in your life as far as how it is that you live in it. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. I don't agree with it any more than I agree with fornication or adultery. Right? Anymore. But then when you place it on a pedestal as a badge of honor, I have to identify with it and deal with it accordingly. But that's not why we're here today, ladies and gentlemen. Let me share my screen with you because I want to have this conversation and I want to make sure that I'm adding as much value to you as possible. Again, make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications, all right? According to the New York Times, Chicago is working feverishly along with a lot of other cities, but Chicago is one of the biggest cities to do it, is working feverishly to give out free money so that they can continue to increase inflation, create a socialist environment where you disincentivize people from actually working and doing anything that's productive in their life. I got to turn my hat backwards on this one. And what it is that we got going on in society. So let's do a little bit of reading. What they're labeling it as is a lifeline. And for liberal supporters, it shows how expanding government can make a difference. For conservatives, it's a return to wasteful welfare handouts. Question: at what point in society has welfare ever benefited black people, specifically people in general, but black people? We sit here and we complain about it today. We say that they remove the man out of the household in order to incentivize women to leave the man that they have children with by then offering them handouts. We say that, the black community was 10 times, 100 times, 1,000,000 times better when we were building it ourselves. People are literally complaining and they're trying to hold Martin Luther King accountable for the civil rights movement and saying that he led people into a burning house. I disagree. But my point is that at what point, because we're having these conversations today, and I'm going to be reading super chats throughout the show. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate you. At what point has handouts, we don't even agree with giving handouts to our homeboys. We say that they're users. We say we're enabling bad behavior. At what point has handouts ever been a solution for anybody in society. I didn't say help. I didn't say inspiration. I didn't say opportunity. I said a handout. It's a difference. Let's read. Southside Chicago photography studio crash in 2020 with the onset of the pandemic. By March 2021, he was scraping by on tax preparation and financial advice business when gunshots. Well, wait. How are you going to be scraping by on a tax preparation and financial advice business? How are you going to give financial advice and you don't even know how to survive yourself? Stop it. You see how backwards we are? Christopher Ellington was scraping by on a financial advice business and he didn't even have no money. He over here doing y'all taxes and holding y'all down and he didn't even have no money. Look at how the article starts off. This was released yesterday. You see the date at the top, February 13th, 2023? When gunshots rang out one day as he was leaving work, 2 bullets from a drive-by shooter pierced his head and left him permanently blind. Shout out to Chicago. Let me put up the leader of Chicago while we're reading this article. I want to make sure that I put up the leader of Chicago while we're reading this article. Creditors were closing in. The rent notices piling up, and then helping hand came late last summer from Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Hey, how convenient is it that they're advocating for this and they're releasing this article at the time that they're releasing it when it comes to Lori Lightfoot? The first of a year's worth of monthly $500 checks with no strings attached, almost no questions asked. He said, hey, the government is doing this. Wait a minute. I don't have to, report this and report that. And you don't have to go through all of my business and I don't have to watch what I say. I was like, this is how it should be. Well, of course you're going to say that. Whenever you don't have to be accountable for whatever it is that people do or do for you, or in order to be able to get it, you then don't necessarily appreciate it. Let's continue. Chicago and the surrounding suburbs of Cook County are conducting the largest experiment of its kind in the nation. An effort to supply thousands of residents with basic level of subsistence, keyword, not in the form of food, housing, or childcare, just cash. Lightfoot's 31.5 million resilient communities pilot selected 5,000 city residents in August to receive the guaranteed cash income for a year. The first $500 checks from a separate program, a $42 million county pilot, went out December to 3,250 residents concentrated in the near-end Chicago suburbs. So let's really paint this. Let's put this in perspective, y'all. Let's put this in perspective. I'm going to give it to you from my perspective, and then you guys can give me some insight on how it makes sense. All right, I'm checking into the chat. They're taxing you, the middle class. For those of you that live in Chicago, for those of you that stay in Illinois, for those of you that continue to pour into the tax system, they're taxing you, and then they're taking the money, even though they got budget shortfalls, even though they can't even keep their own football and their own football team in their own city. They're going to take your money, and then they doing a pilot program with it. They're going to take your money, and then they're going to do a pilot program with it, with the expectation of trying to roll it out to much broader situations and a much broader population. Connie is right. There's no such thing as free money. People should have learned from the stimulus situation. We're in a worse situation than we've ever been in before. And we have an untold, unprecedented amount of deficit. And just because you don't necessarily know what that means, because you're not really paying attention to how the money affects you, but it is affecting you. You sit here and you talk about, well, $100,000 don't go as far as as it used to. Why do you think that is? The price of eggs is this. Why do you think that is? To be able to live in a place, you know how much rent is? It's out of control. Why do you think that is? Who do you think is paying for it? Who do you think is paying for it? Don't worry about it. We're going to continue. Shout out to all of the women with new BBLs because they use that stimulus package. On Monday, the National Association of Counties Conference in Washington, which started over the weekend, runs through Tuesday. County executives will announce a network of county-level basic income programs to match the mayoral initiatives that have sprouted to 50 cities. Black people, I'm gonna speak to my. I know it's other people in this besides black people, but I'm gonna speak to my black people right now. I'm gonna speak to my black people. This is how they ties you into the Democratic Party in the first place, and they always do it around election time, around times that is meaningful for whoever the mayoral candidate. If you think that it's a mistake that they releasing it around these specific dates, then you are absolutely positively out of your rabbit mind. Don't you know that this is how they tied you into making sure that you vote for specific parties in order to ensure that they tie you to the Democratic Party? That you no longer have any requests, and even though you are the one that's paying for the stimulus, it can, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of y'all getting y'all tax returns. Shout out to all of the people that's already taken advance, even though I told y'all to not take an advance during tax season. Shout out to all of the people that got their tax returns early. It reminds me of the tax returns, right? And that you like, oh man, I can't wait to get my tax return because I'm balling. Don't you know that that's your money? You saved it. It's your money. What do you mean you're going to be balling on the tax return or the money that the federal... You paid into the system. It's your money. All you did was give the government a loan in order to make sure that you pay your fair share, and then they gave you a return of what it is that they feel like you owe them. You finessing yourself. So if you were smart, you would then start to look at that and say, you know what? Why can't I apply this to myself in reverse in order to ensure that I continue to be successful instead of waiting on the federal government to give me my money back so that I can pretend like I'm balling for the next 3 months? Help us, Lord. Both Chicago and Cook County are tapping money sent to local governments through the 2021 pandemic relief law known as the American Rescue Plan. Both programs are administered by a group called Give Directly that had been better known for helping poor people in developing nations. The city and county efforts are being assessed by social scientists at the University of Chicago. This was a once-in-a-lifetime moment for us to be bold and innovative. For Democrats, the concept is a wager on big government at a time when faith in democratic governance is at a low. Let me read that for you one more time. For Democrats, for the people that's in the back, I'm going to read it slow. For Democrats, the concept is a wager on big government. They want the government to become more inflated at a time when faith in democratic governance is at a low. What did I just tell y'all? What did I just teach y'all? What did I just say to y'all? How convenient for them to roll this out at the time that they rolled it out when faith in democratic governance is low. It's the same playbook that they've been rolling out to y'all for the last 70 years. And you think that these people are literally working on your behalf when they're trying to gain favor with the people by taking your money and then taxing you even more so that they can give it to people that don't even care about you, because they know that those are the people that's going to determine the election if they're passionate about what it is that they're doing for them, even though it's hurting them more than it's helping them. Whatever the outcome, the spread of basic income programs is a reminder of the growing divide between Democrats and Republicans. Let's continue. There's no indication that I see what the American public thinks. What we really need is more aid to people who choose not to work. This is from a conservative. Let's skip around. In Democratic cities and states deep in blue and bright red, such as Columbia, South Carolina, Shreveport, Louisiana, and Birmingham, Alabama, political leaders are moving in the opposite direction. Mayor Lightfoot may be in the throes of a difficult campaign for re-election. Let me say that again. Mayor Lightfoot may be in the throes of a difficult campaign. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Ah! But none of her 8 rivals for the Democratic mayoral nomination ahead of the first round of voting on February 28th. What? Say it ain't so. Have made an issue of her guaranteed income effort. Instead, the mayor is picking a fight with the National Republican Party. She don't really see the other Democrats as a problem. She already know that all she got to do is win a Democratic nomination, and then as usual, y'all gonna vote for another Democrat because that's just what people do. They just go ahead and vote blue, vote the Democratic side, and they don't even know who they voting for. She added, "I'm the mayor of the city of Chicago, and I know what our people need." The income cutoff for Chicago and Cook County is forgiving. 250% of the federal poverty level, $36,000 a year for an individual, $75,000 a year for a family of four, though acceptance was weighted towards certain groups such as homeless people, veterans, and caregivers. I thought y'all said $75,000 a year was enough to raise a family of four. That's literally what y'all argued for me. Y'all said $75,000 a year was enough to be able to raise a family of four. Now we need government handouts. Cool. This is how the University of Chicago researchers are using surveys. This is the science of being an what did they call themselves? Educational something? I don't know. Surveys, in-person interviews, economic, labor, criminal, and legal and educational data to track recipients of the money, and even larger control group not selected for grants. Lightfoot said the future of the pilot project would depend on the university's assessment. President of Cook County Board of Commissioners insisted that the county project would not end when the federal funds were exhausted. The county will tap funds from newly legalized cannabis sales. That's where y'all weed money is going. And other revenue streams to keep it going, using the university assessment to guide it and decide whether to expand it. More taxes. When she talks about the origins of the guaranteed basic income concept, she not only invokes the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, but also more confrontational Black Panthers. Now they're using y'all blackety black talking points in order to illustrate it. This is bad. This is bad. Nothing else to read here. I don't even want to continue to go through this. So, shout out to Lori Lightfoot. I will give her some credit. She has figured out how to continue to finesse y'all. And all of our political recipients have all figured out how to continue to keep you tied to the Democratic Party, keep you on universal basic income, and also keep you docile because we already know exactly how you're going to vote.